I guess it's time. Final episode to the final season of hopefully the final material from Stranger Things that we get. Just kidding, I'm not delusional. I know there's gonna be 15 spin-offs off of this bullshit. But yeah, I guess we should just hop into it. I'm gonna start with talking about the military in this finale. Holy shit, what a kerosene-covered dumpster fire this has been. Not only have they time and time again showed incredible incompetence in the shape of being easily tricked, be fought off by teenagers, or shooting each other. But in the finale, we conclude their presence. And they've been so stupid throughout this entire season that in the one scene where a soldier says this...
There must have been some kind of malfunction.
Let me get this straight. There was a malfunction at the exact moment that truck showed up. You really expect me to believe that, soldier?
It almost feels jarring because... where the fuck did you get your brains from? Why do you all of a sudden have critical thinking? Where did this come from? Then they finally check out the tower that's been overlooking their entire base. Now, I called this out in my first video how stupid it was that they have this tower that's overlooking the base and the military never think to check it out or to seal the building off or anything. But the military finally go and check out the tower. Now, of course, our heroes weren't smart enough to hide the truck that they arrived in. They parked the van right outside, and of course this van is what leads them to the radio tower where they find Max and Vicky. Fucking brilliant at all. But it's so insane because in this entire finale and in the season in general, the military just shows up whenever the writers want to introduce a ticking clock element, whenever it is that the writers want to speed things up. Now, our hero's plan to climb up the tower to reach into the abyss is, interesting. There's a moment of drama when they realize that the tower is not lining up with the rift above, and that when the planet comes down, it will bring the tower down, essentially. Did you not account for this? What was it that made you guys so sure that the tower would line up with a rift? Considering the ratio of rift contra not rift up there. You were just banking that the needle would automatically poke through a rift. It's a pretty big stretch to think that. What we're seeing over here is absolutely the most likely outcome. So any reasonable person would wait at the bottom and wait to climb up until it was safe to go up there, in case the tower was brought down by the descending planet or the abyss or whatever the fuck it is. Because even with all that, they are super lucky that the planet stopped when it's just in reach for our heroes from the platform up in the tower. But also, as the thing is descending, our heroes never think once to start climbing down the tower. I mean, it's not like they can trust that 11 is going to stop it in time, so I feel like you would probably start climbing down. Now, I know that you might be thinking,
well, climbing down the ladder wouldn't help, and they needed to be up there when the planet descended to save time.
Let me fully explain this. The risk that they're taking over here have such a high chance of death with the upside of maybe a 10-minute head start. No sensible person would do what they have done over here. But I guess it's just that the main characters have figured out their invincibility by now. Speaking of which, another fake out death. Do you think there was a single person on planet Earth that thought that Steve was gonna die here? Like, we've seen this play so many times that, like, you can't keep playing us like this. Yet another moment of the Duffers thinking that their audience is dumber than they are. But the moment up at the tower is intercut with Sister and Squidward and Jesus. So they're running around in this school and trying to get a last-minute portal to Vecna, and there's so many questions that show up over here. For one, how did Max know that these curtains would be a portal directly over to Vecna? Isn't it based on memories that Max has with Vecna, so has Max been to Vecna's house? And did Max know that the curtains would close at that exact moment? But disregarding that, this is Vecna's mind, so we are in Vecna's memories. So, Vecna apparently went to high school together with Joyce, Hopper, the Wheelers, and all of these parents. What the fuck? Do the Duffer Brothers not understand what a bomb that is to drop on us? And the parents never find out that they went to school with Vecna. How the fuck can you include something like that and not realize what huge implications is brought in by it? And apparently the Duffer Brothers have said that the parents found this out off screen. Good God, the Duffer Brothers need fucking media training. They keep saying bullshit in interviews all the time. But also, why do they introduce something like that and not explore it? It would have been a very interesting way to explore and develop Vecna's character if we follow Max in Vecna's school memories, seeing what his adolescence was like and what it was that turned him into the guy that he is today. Plus, it would make it way more believable for Max to know all the ins and outs of all of Vecna's memories. Whilst now, it's quite hard for me to believe that Max knows all of the details of all of these memories, even down to the timing of the curtains in the play. Plus, I don't understand how that play is Henry's memory. Is he one of the performers? Is he in the audience? Like, how does this work? But we then see our heroes climb from the tower into the abyss. Now, there's a thing over here that I'd like to highlight. A few months ago, I did a short on how the details of Die Hard is what grounds it into reality. That the details and small moments that happen in the background and in the foreground is what makes the whole world feel so tangible and realistic, because it acts as a real world and place. Well, here, it's the opposite. The fact that these kids are standing on a radio tower that is 200 meters or like 500 feet tall, and they have to climb up the edge of this quite unstable railing and reach into something in the sky that's quite difficult to grab onto, whilst they have a very high risk of losing balance. But there is not a single sign of fear or vertigo whatsoever on any of these characters. Now, I'm not saying this like a plot hole or whatever, but it is just so blatantly obvious to us that these are in fact actors that is not that far up in the sky. Because if you were 200 meters up, standing on a shaky railing, reaching into a fucking rock in the sky, you would most likely be quite startled about the steep drop you have right in front of you. It's the tiny moments like that that humanize your characters. A great example of this is in Matt Reeves' The Batman, where Batman runs through the police station and he runs to the top of the tower to then do his like bat suit flying through the city. But when he goes up, before he's about to jump off, he has the moment where he goes like, holy shit, this is far up, and you see the fear in him. Like, it doesn't affect the plot or anything like that, he still flies off. But it's that tiny moment that makes it feel so real, because that makes you realize this is actually a person. And there is just nothing of that in this scene. Yeah, I don't know, it's not even that big of a deal over here, it's just like, these moments add up, and it's like this throughout the entire season. Nothing feels real in this season. So then Sister and Squidward are executing their plan to kill Henry, and it starts out okay, but then we have the moment where Squidward throws him onto the table and she screams, "Ow!" And then the sister runs in to stab him. The main mission. The move that will allow them to save themselves, save 12 kids, and save the entirety of Hawkins. So the sister runs in with the knife and she's standing above Vecna, and she takes the opportunity to pause for a moment to say hello. You realize that now, if Vecna would have won, that low-key would be blood on your hands. There is no reason to pause at any moment, giving him the chance to escape. There's no reason for it. Though, to be fair, he should be fucked either way, but that's when they introduce that Vecna can just vanish out of thin air. What? Since when is this a thing? My god, the Duffer Brothers just have no comprehension of the idea of stakes. If you introduce new powers to characters just at the correct moment so that they don't die, then why the hell should I ever be invested in what happens to them if you're just gonna retcon it anyways? Then there's the issue of Vecna showing Hopper, like, the sister and Squidward's plan. Now, the actual scene did have some things going for it. First with Vecna tricking Hopper that he shot 11, so Hopper breaks the tank, letting her out and ultimately ruining the plan. I thought that was quite an interesting angle. But then Hopper confronts 11 with her plan to die, which is infuriating as fuck. I've already talked about it in both my other videos, but their arc of a Hopper still being overprotective over 11 is so fucking old at this point. But the inclusion of the sister pointing the gun at Hopper and saying this is bigger than him, I was like, ooh, okay, this is interesting. But ultimately that goes nowhere, and instead it introduces a major issue in this whole thing. If Vecna can see into Squidward's mind and see their plan, then he can also see the plan of them going to the abyss. Then now he should know exactly what their plan is to take him out, so he should be able to prevent it. God, it's really been a while since I've seen a script with this many giant gaping holes in its writing. What a fucking nuclear level of shithousery. Now I do want to bring up something that I thought of in this scene. When Hopper brings up everything that 11 has been through, maybe it's just me, but I don't feel the weight of 11's history whatsoever. When I think of 11 as a character, I don't think of her tragic backstory. I think of her telekinesis, I think of her screaming with her hand out with a nosebleed, and I think of the intrigue that I felt about her character in season 1. Whilst if I think of a character like Jesse Pinkman, or Rust Cole, or Sophia Falcone, or Luke and Nell Crane, etc., their devastating experiences and history are directly linked to their character. Their personality, their morale, their wants and needs, and what drives them are all a direct product of the traumas and horrible things that they went through. But 11 is such a flat character in comparison to the ones I mentioned that I actually just straight up forgot about all the insanely dark shit that she's gone through. Like, I feel like they did more with Will's tragic experiences in season 3. Like, when it was that they were all hanging out together and Will had to deal with the fact that his closest friends have kind of outgrown him a little bit, since all of his friends have gone through things that have made them grow in the past 2 years, whilst the past 2 years of Will's life have been robbed from him. Like, I feel like they did more with that tragic backstory than they ever did with Eleven's tragic backstory. Now, Derek doing tug of war with Vecna is stupid as fuck. Why does Vecna not do his regular telekinesis? Why does he turn into Groot? And why was out of breath Derek stronger than Vecna? Also with Derek, in the next scene in the cave, there is just no way that... No, I can't go there. No, you know what? Fuck that. This season I've been doing fat jokes all along. If they can do it, so can I. There is absolutely no way that Darren can fit through this tiny hole over here. But back at Hawkins' lab, we have a big action scene. So they're all running and they turn on this sound wave thing, impairing both Eleven and Sister. Now, the way that Hopper just Callie is her name. The way that Hopper just leaves Callie is fucking mental. Like, they didn't even bother to show a moment of Hopper acknowledging that this is a difficult choice or something like that. He just goes off. No regrets at all. Though, to be fair, if you look at how Hopper as a character have been characterized in season 5, this is what this character would do. And it's for that very reason that I hate how much they have tampered with this character, because Hopper of season 1 would never just leave this kid over here. But then Hopper goes all John Wick and just take out all of these guys, no issues whatsoever, because, of course. Now, 11 also kills one of the guys like this. I feel like this is a good moment to explain how character writing works. Characters and stories are built via the choices they make. When a character is under pressure, whether that is a big or a small choice, that choice ultimately tells us something about who this character is as a person. So when we see a character do something like this, it becomes very difficult for an audience to see them as anything else other than extremely malicious and fucking sadistic. Like, you didn't need to do that. You could have snapped his neck or used some of your powers to knock him out or something like that. But she chose to slowly puppeteer his body to aim the gun at his own head and shoot himself. Arguably the worst way you could possibly go out. Like, you just didn't need to do that. And, like, I don't care that this is supposed to be an evil guy or whatsoever. That choice says something about who you are as a character, and you didn't need to do that. You just didn't. Then we get the scene where Callie dies. Oh, so that's why you brought her back. I cannot believe this. This is even worse than Bob or Alexei. Think about Callie as a character. What has she accomplished this season? Like, what has she actually done this season? Fucking nothing. She stupidly missed the stabbing of Vecna, and she said some woeful quotes to 11. She was only introduced to be killed off. The Duffers did it again. How fucking pathetic filmmakers these guys are, fucking hell. But then 11 gets the idea to jump on the... What the fuck? Why are there just boulders floating in the sky? What is this, Pandora? But she says that this will put her right by the tree. I don't know how 11 knows about the tree, or much less where exactly it's gonna be located, but I'm mostly intrigued about how the fuck she's gonna be able to get up there and get into the abyss. This is gonna be interesting to see. Oh, she's in. Cool. But I guess we should talk about Vecna's backstory. So, we don't know what this rock is, who this scientist is, why Henry found him, how this affected Henry after this scene in the years to come, etc. But the weirdest thing about this is his conversation with Will. Will says that it was just this rock that made Henry evil. That he was innocent and good until the Sorcerer's Stone made him evil. Which is very creative, mature, and very deep writing. But I mostly reacted on how this removes any type of agency on Vecna as a character. So now he's a fucking victim? Someone who was corrupted by evil. Way to fucking retcon any interesting decision that he's ever made. But then they backtrack on that and say that he chose to be evil himself. So what was the point of introducing the evil force that he was exposed to? Like, what is this character? This just feels like compensation for the lack of development we've had for this guy since he's such a flat character. Again, I would have preferred it if it would have been explored via flashbacks with Max. I think that just would have been better. But then we reach the final battle and it is jam-packed with issues. First thing we gotta tackle is this. Where are all the creatures? This is something that the show even points out.
I was expecting more like...
Deadly vines?
Monsters?
They acknowledge that it doesn't make any sense. And then they give a reason That is wrong.
I assume the hive mind works here too, so if Henry died, so did all his nasty little minions.
They took the time to point out the issue, then give an answer that they know is wrong, and then they just move on. This series have built up so many creatures in the Demogorgon and Demodogs and the bats and everything. Then for the final battle, they're just not around. They're on vacation. They're out in the summer house. They're out skiing. What the fuck is going on? Like, Vecna and the Mind Flayer should have them all swarm our heroes and kill them in an instant. And I can't help but think, why didn't they include them? Is it because they thought it would be too ridiculous for our heroes to survive that without a scratch? Really? Ridiculous? So this over here is not ridiculous then? What fucking standards do these guys have? What the hell? But to talk about when they actually fight fucking Shelob over here. For starters, it just looks silly. Like, imagine you're watching the show for the first time. You just finished season 1. This low-scale, intimate adventure that managed to feel very big because of the strong characters and world building. Imagine seeing that, then out of context show them this. How fucking far this show has fallen is beyond me, bro. The fact that 11 jumps like this and just manages to enter Shelob's vagina to the fucking womb where Vecna is or whatever the fuck is going on. But I also don't know why it is that Vecna's turned from having very efficient telekinesis and have just turned into fucking Groot, who's like flinging branches around. What's going on? But outside of Shelob's vagina, the group is standing over here and have the plan of trying to draw Shelob closer to the cliffside and then attack it from above. So then fucking Rambo volunteers as bait and he just starts shooting right away. Doesn't give them a head start or anything. Given that they have to climb up quite a tall cliffside, which would take like 30 minutes if we're being very generous, they would probably benefit from getting a bit of a head start. But Rambo just starts drawing it closely right away, and she also managed to outrun Shelob. Somehow. She reached the cave and of course managed to avoid Shelob's mouth just for long enough before our heroes reach up the cliffs? What? It took you 1 minute and 40 seconds to reach all the way up here. It's hundreds of meters high and also hundreds of meters away. Even if we're gonna be very generous with the time skip and whilst Rambo is holding it off over here, you cleared that distance in 4 minutes. Jesus fucking Christ. But they managed to beat Shelob via like these spears to its gooch, flamethrowers, the same amount of flamethrowers that the military had, and water balloons filled with gasoline that's ignited by the flare gun. What the fuck? How did you bring water balloons? How did you bring gasoline? And how did you make them over here? Do you have like a fucking Fortnite back bling as an inventory or something? What the fuck is going on? All of that whilst 11 beat Vecna with Deus Ex Machina help from Will.
I'm not afraid anymore.
Shut the fuck up. So Will holds off Vecna and... Wait, hold on. Hold the fuck on. Why is Will not hurt by this? He is still part of the hive mind, hence how he can control Vecna in this instance. So he should also feel their pain and damage. Will being connected to the hive mind and feeling the same damage has been a huge plot point throughout this entire show, especially in season 2 and season 5. Only for them to blatantly contradict that here in the final climax. Holy fuck, the Duffers really don't fucking care about this show, do they? Then Vecna dies at the hands of Joyce. Now, there's been an issue throughout this whole season that whenever they do a payoff or a reference or something, they always give a little flashback. It's genuinely like they're going, in case you didn't know what this was a payoff for, here we go, here's a setup. Showing a very clear lack of faith in the audience's intelligence. It's been going throughout this entire season, and it got ridiculous to the point where Mike is sitting at this podium and obviously thinking about Elle. And when he's thinking about Elle, they even cut in their final moment over at the base. Brother, I saw that scene 10 minutes ago. I know what he's thinking about. And there's just so much of that in Vecna's death scene over here. They show every character and every time flashing back and basically going, hey, in case you didn't know why these guys want him dead. Except for Steve and Robin, who I guess just don't care. But the day is won. Yay! And on their way out of the Upside Down, they go through the opening and they run into the military. Like, of course? What did you expect? You're hunted by them and have killed dozens of their soldiers. Did you expect all of that to just go away? Did no one think of an alternate escape route to be prepared for this exact encounter? You are driving straight into the base of the faction that's been hunting you for this entire season. Now, before I continue with that scene, I do want to talk about the character moments in this finale. Because there are a lot of resolutions and final moments in between characters, and honestly, the majority of them are actually quite good scenes. In a vacuum. The issues I have with most of these scenes are twofold. One, they are payoffs that are built on arcs that have been ridiculous, either contrived and contradictory to their character, or just repeats of previous arcs. But my second issue is that they are just trying way too hard to make us emotional. The epilogue is basically just trying to get us to cry for an hour straight. Since I was so uninvested to begin with, I didn't really feel it that much in the scenes that were coming, despite the scenes actually being alright. But when it was just crying upon crying upon crying upon crying, I was so taken out of it because it feels like the Duffer Brothers is grabbing me and shaking me and going, cry, cry, you little shit. Even the proposal scene between Hopper and Joyce is so cringe, it's insane. Doing it in public like this is bad enough, but then they go to the front of the restaurant to dance. What the fuck is this? Which is a shame, because most of the scenes that we get are quite good. Jonathan and Steve squashing their beef, Hopper letting go of Eleven, and the Eleven and Mike scene is actually really good, I think. It's very well performed by both actors, and I was right away hit with the feeling that it was quite a mature approach from Eleven to single out Mike and have Mike tell the rest of the group. I thought that was quite a mature choice, both from the character and the script, to have it go about that way. But it is also an issue that their relationship has felt so weak in these past episodes. But to tackle the discussion of whether or not this is real, well, I find both outcomes to kind of suck. Let's say that Mike is right, and this was an illusion. Well, that means that 1, yet again, the Duffers are cowards and incapable of killing off any of their characters. 2, how the fuck would Kali know when to do this illusion? 3, that means that Mike's conversation with Eleven was actually an illusion from Kali, since Eleven can't do magic under the beams thing. So Mike made out with Kali and had his final heart-to-heart with Kali. So yeah, I think that alternative kinda sucks. So what about the other one? What if this was all just cope from Mike and she actually did die? Well, then she shouldn't be able to cast the spell to talk to Mike in this way. And if she did, why is she just standing in the middle of the opening ready for the military to take her? And why doesn't the military just go after her? It's like they took her out of the car and Linda Hamilton just goes, "Where's the girl?" And they go, I don't know, she was here a second ago. Oh, there she is. Yeah. You go grab her, girl. So I find the discussion of what really is the case to be quite uninteresting, because both outcomes are very broken. But we then hop to 18 months later. None of these guys are in jail. What? These guys have murdered so many soldiers. They've broken so many laws and committed so many crimes. And they just walk free. I thought it was bad enough in season 4 where, despite being linked to Hellfire, they're still allowed to just walk free. But here, they have broken into and murdered countless military soldiers, and they're just walking free. They should all be expelled or lose their jobs. Especially if that job is as a policeman and being offered a promotion to be chief of police. What the fuck? Not to mention that he's believed to be dead in season 4, and there's just no reaction to him being back and alive, and the kids just get to graduate like nothing happened. Dustin being valedictorian, and Max somehow caught up on the 2 years she was in a coma. Like, give me a fucking break, man. They even do the thing of the hot girl finally talking to Dustin, which is super cliche and super cheesy. But didn't Dustin have a girlfriend? What happened to her? Wasn't her name like Susie? Wasn't there a big thing around her? What happened to her? I mean, we don't hear a single mentioning of her ever again. Then we get the final D&D scene. Now, if you take this scene and ignore the tear-jerking, you ignore the silly 11 theories, it is actually quite cute. Like, there's a lot of expression on these actors' faces, and it feels like a conclusion to a large adventure that they've had. And the idea that it's a passing of the torch to Holly and her friends is okay, despite these kids being very flat characters and also their friendships being quite hard to buy. Like, except all of that, the scene does work in a weird way. But considering that I have to ignore like 10 asterisks for the scene to work, that kind of tells you the quality of all of this. So we see Mike close the door and we fade out, and that's the end of Stranger Things as we know it, before Netflix is ultimately going to reboot it at some point. What a cosmic disaster. What a way to alienate your entire fan base. It is actually super interesting to be engaged in the discussion and seeing how much people have turned on this show. Like, back in October, when I called out the poor writing of this show, I was told I was a madman. You should see my old TikTok videos on this. I was flamed in the comment section. People were telling me that I was crazy, that I was a waste of space, that I didn't understand media. But now, majority of the comments I'm getting on all of my videos is people actually agreeing with a lot of things that I'm saying. Yeah, it's just funny to see how things can turn over time and how badly the Duffers have tanked their entire fan base and reputation at this point. I guess we now have another story that we could put next to Lost and How Much Mother and Dexter and Game of Thrones, etc. on the shelf of huge shows with horrific endings. I would be curious to hear from you guys. How would you rank the 5 seasons? I'm a little bit like back and forth in my head. Like it's, for me, it's obvious 1 and 4. Then I think I would say 2 next, and God, 3 and 5 are both awful. It's a toss-up of the 2 of which is the worst one. It's very difficult for me to say which one is which. But yeah, I'd be curious to hear your guys' ranking, and you know, it's been a pleasure talking about this show. Not necessarily watching it, but reviewing it and talking about it has been a lot of fun. And especially now that my channel has started to get a bit more traction and being able to interact with all of you guys as well has been quite lovely. Of course, now Stranger Things is over, but if you enjoy my commentary on this, then you can check out what I think about Pluribus, or what I thought of weapons, or Gilbert Grape, or the Penguin, or something like that. I've talked about a bunch of things, and in general, subscribe and stick around to see what I do next. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See yas.